I'm going to teach you some advanced vocabulary, phrasal verbs and idioms, all in the context of an article. Let's begin. The Ripon superwoman who helps struggling families cook on a budget. Ripon is a place. We could have said the London superwoman or the Manchester superwoman. Now let's take a look at this. We have struggling families. Here, struggling is an adjective and it means families who are having problems. The verb struggle means to find something difficult. For example, I am struggling to learn German. The phrase to cook on a budget means that you are cooking but you have a limited amount of money. A budget is a limited amount of money. You could also say, I travelled on a budget, or I decorated my house on a budget. When Helen Mackenzie set up her food charity in Ripon, she wanted not just to help cover the cost of people's meals, but to teach them to cook from scratch using fresh ingredients. The phrasal verb set up, you could say establish. You can set up a business, you can establish a business. In this case, she set up a charity. So a charity is an organisation which its purpose is to help people. Now we have this, she wanted not just to help, but to teach. So for example, I wanted not just to visit Italy, but also visit France. We have the expression cover the cost. If you are trying to cover the cost, you are trying to get enough money to pay for the whole thing. For example, I want to go on a holiday and it costs £1,000. I need to cover the cost of my holiday. I need £1,000. We have this fantastic expression to cook from scratch. Now normally you may know scratch as a verb. This is what cats do. The cat scratched me. Or the dog was scratched by the cat. However, the expression from scratch, it means from nothing. You can buy a ready-made lasagna in the supermarket, or you can cook it from scratch. For example, I bought all of the ingredients and I cooked lasagna from scratch. Now, 4 years on, she has been described as a superwoman and has helped more than 45 families. I didn't want to be a soup kitchen, the 57-year-old PE teacher tells me. A PE teacher, PE stands for physical education. Now, she says here, I didn't want to be a soup kitchen. In Victorian Britain, there were a lot of poor people and there were special places called soup kitchens. There is a picture on screen now where people could go and they were given food. Now this lady in the article, she didn't want to be a soup kitchen. She wanted to help families to help themselves, to be able to cook from scratch. I wanted families to get back to the basics, cook themselves, prep with the kids, so that everyone was involved in making the meal and it wasn't just mum's job. Here, prep is short for prepare. Through her back to basics scheme, as well as handing out fresh ingredients to those she helps, Helen also hands out free recipe cards for making healthy meals. So we have here the phrasal verb, it's used twice, handing out, hands out, and that means to distribute. Here's an example. I saw a man in the street and he was handing out free Bibles. That means I saw a man in the street and he was distributing free Bibles. The project currently supports 14 families, which includes 48 adults and children. She said, while Ripon may appear from the outside to be an affluent cathedral city, there are many families struggling to make ends meet. So, a few things. In this sentence, while means although. Now, appear from the outside. What it means is the city, Ripon, if you look at it from the outside and you don't know this place, it looks like it is a rich place. It says here, an affluent. Affluent is a fantastic C1 level word and it means rich. And in the UK, some cities have cathedrals and many of them are rich. And there is a fantastic expression here, to make ends meet. That is a very common idiom. If you cannot make ends meet, it means you don't have enough money. Here's an example. John got a second job because he was struggling to make ends meet. I am seeing firsthand families choosing, do they eat or do they heat? The mum of two said. If you see something firsthand, you see it with your own eyes. I've seen them sitting at a meal table with hats, scarves and gloves on and blankets around their legs. It absolutely breaks my heart. One woman who used Helen's service, a single mum who asked not to be named, said it had been invaluable during a difficult time for her family. There's actually a missing word in this article. I should contact the BBC. It was at least one meal a week I didn't have to think about. One meal we didn't have to plan around and figure out what we were cooking. So here's another phrasal verb, to figure out. It means to understand what you're going to do. For example, it took me a long time to figure out what the problem was. It took me a long time to understand what the problem was. During the festive period, when the scheme also provides a Christmas meal, she said she was able to put her money towards keeping her home warm instead. So, to put your money towards something. For example, I have been saving and I'm going to put my money towards buying a new car. After 2 years, she has now stopped using the service and instead works to repay Helen's support. To repay means to pay somebody back the money that you owe. I owe John £100 and I'm going to repay him tomorrow. I have offered to donate a Christmas dinner this year because I know that Helen's had 4 extra families over the last few weeks, she told the BBC. Helen's a superwoman. I wonder how she does it sometimes. So the verb wonder is when you're thinking about something. For example, why isn't Sarah here? I wonder what happened. This means I'm asking myself, where is Sarah? Helen said that for some of the families she helps, fresh fruit can be considered a treat. This is a great example of the passive verb form. Here's another example. Lions are considered dangerous creatures. I think sometimes we can't just even fathom it, she adds. My fruit bowl is always full. This is a great verb, to fathom something. It means to understand it. Here's an example. I cannot fathom why so many children are living in poverty. It means I simply cannot understand it. The food packages she provides often include produce from local businesses, such as vegetables from trader Brian Murphy and fish and seafood from TMR Foods. TMR Foods owner Tony Rushton said that over the years the firm has donated ingredients for fish cakes and pies or fresh fish such as salmon and sea bass. So a trader is somebody who sells things, and the word firm is another word for business. The 51-year-old said, fish is always seen as a luxury, but it's a very good and healthy option. When asked why he chose to support the scheme, he said, it's all about helping the local community and it's about families cooking healthy meals as opposed to buying processed supermarket meals. We've got a great expression here, as opposed to. Here's a great example. You should save your money as opposed to wasting it on alcohol. The local Morrison's supermarket also regularly donates close to sell-by products, and Wensleydale Creamery also helps out. Every product has a sell-by date written on the packet, and this is when it will be no longer good to eat. So Morrison's is a supermarket and it donates close to sell-by products. So products that are soon going to be past their sell-by date. While she predominantly focuses on offering ingredients for one meal a week, Helen occasionally collects and hands out white goods and furniture donations. Helen estimates that she has helped around 45 families over the years and said some of them have been with her since the beginning. In the UK, white goods are washing machines, fridges and freezers because they are white. More often than not, Helen said the biggest barrier for people is to actually ask for help. I know it's really hard, she said, if people have the nerve to ask for help, because that's quite daunting. I'll help and I'll never turn anybody away. So the biggest barrier is an obstacle. Here's an example. The biggest barrier to learning Chinese is the very difficult writing system. If people have the nerve to ask. In this sentence, this means if people have the courage to ask. Here's an example. I don't know how Sarah had the nerve to do it. I don't know how Sarah had the courage to do it. And this is a fantastic adjective, daunting. When something is daunting, it's difficult. It makes you worry, am I going to be able to do this? For example, I had my first job interview in English, and I must admit it was extremely daunting. And here is the phrasal verb to turn somebody away. This means if someone has come to you to ask for help and you say no, go away, you have turned them away. For example, I went to the hospital, but they turned me away because they were full. I really hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a like, leave me a comment and share it with somebody else that you think would like it. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.